Welcome to the Washington Tattoo Podcast, where we champion education, celebrate community, and unite the very best of humanity. Fueled by world-class military precision and cultural excellence, the Washington Tattoo produces unforgettable immersive experiences, creating an atmosphere for people, organizations, and businesses to connect, network, and build impactful relationships. We invite you to listen to this episode of the Washington Tattoo Podcast, where the world's musical traditions come to life. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to an episode of the Washington Tattoo Podcast. We have Stu Warmington over in the UK. He's doing some fantastic stuff with British Drum Company and Regimental Replicas. So if you want to check them out, they are a fantastic organization. And our special guest today is Mr. Florian Hediger from Basel, Switzerland, and a member of the infamous Top Secret Drum Corps. We are super excited to have Florian on. We've known Florian for a very long time and have some incredible stories to share today. So we are super excited and honored to have Florian as a part of the Washington Tattoo ecosystem and family. So Florian, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. Super excited.
Awesome. So we were just catching up earlier. Stu is in the UK. It's a little bit cold there at the moment. Stu, how are things over on your end?
It's just the same. It's just always damp, grey and wet. It doesn't, we don't get any nice weather, which is why we always go abroad.
You're not doing much for UK tourism right now, my friend.
It's not doing much for itself.
I love it. So want to jump in real quick on this. I mean, super interesting story, Florian. Your background and, where you grew up is so infamous for, traditional music and festivals. And honestly, the history of the city of Basel is just so rich. So, I mean, honestly, I'd love to just start with the conversation of how did you start off with your journey in the traditional fifing and drumming scene in Basel?
Yeah, like you said, Basel, I call it like the Mecca of drumming, because that's where a lot of things are coming from. And for me, it started when I was 6 years old. My dad, he plays the piccolo, so he's a fifer. Luckily, he allowed me to play the drums. But when I was a baby when I was at Fasnacht for the first time. So that's how I kind of got into it, and I've been in the same group, the same clique for what is it now? 23 years or something. So my sister is there, my father. It's a family affair. So yeah, you get into it very early, and you can't get out of it anymore.
I love it. So, I mean, just to bridge that gap a little bit. So, number one, he saw the light and he saw that you needed to be a drummer, which is good,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And then two, this idea of Fasnacht, this Fasnacht Carnival that's there. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Where to start? I mean, it has a huge tradition. I don't even know how long that has been going on, but of course it's been hundreds of years around. And in Basel, we have about, maybe 5,000 drummers and a total of maybe 12,000 people that take part in the carnival itself, in the Fasnacht. Fasnacht is very, very difficult to describe, and I think it's something that you need to see with your own eyes to kind of experience it and to believe what's happening. I actually honestly struggle to describe it because there's no words for it. I mean, how do you describe that at 4 a.m. the lights go off and then what's happening? I mean, you guys seen it before. How do you want to describe that, right? And it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. But no, I think the tradition of it, that's very, very important, and how we keep living on that tradition, and something that doesn't have to be changed. It's just the way it is, and it's been like that for hundreds of years. And I think that's very beautiful that we come together in a city like Basel, and especially now starting also people from abroad come to Basel and take part in Fasnacht. So I think it's the tradition part of it is that way.
So the Fasnacht obviously is a carnival that it's every year. Everybody gets involved, and like you said, there's 5,000 drummers, and there's thousands of musicians, and there's lots of people, tourists coming across. How did COVID affect it? Because obviously, that must have been a huge impact, not just on the performances, but also the tourism side of it, the economy, and how did you keep your goals going throughout that? Because obviously, there was nothing to look forward to or aim to. So how did you get on with that?
It was a huge impact. I mean, in 2020, the first big event in Switzerland that was canceled was Basel Fasnacht. So it was the Friday before Fasnacht, literally the Friday before. We were already, there was one case in Basel of COVID, and we were like, we obviously had no idea what it was. So like, whatever, they cannot cancel Fasnacht. I mean, it's Fasnacht. You can't cancel it. It's impossible. And then on Friday morning, they had this press conference where they said, like, it's not going to happen. It's going to be absolutely illegal. There's going to be police all over town and blah, blah, blah. And that's when we were like, oh my God, what's happening? And we couldn't believe. And I remember saying to a friend, at least we have the Bummel in 3 weeks, which you get together again and for a Sunday, and you have a kind of a party going on. We were like, oh, in 3 weeks, at least, we'll have that. And fast forward 2 years later, we were still into this whole mess. And obviously 3 weeks was nothing. But it had a huge impact, especially with the kids. We are missing a whole, not a year, not a generation, but a whole 2 years of new kids starting to drum and play the piccolo. So keeping them motivated during this time, the ones that are already all in the clique, was very difficult. And you started to go to online and instructions and stuff like that, but it's just not the same, right? So it was definitely
So I mean, at this point, where we're doing this recording and when, we're actually coming right up on Basel Fasnacht in a few weeks, actually. And so this is really special for us to chat about this, because I think not too long ago, Basel Fasnacht, the carnival that happens, it's a pre-Lenten carnival. If people time it right, they can actually do Basel Fasnacht right after the Venetian Carnival in Venice, and you could have 2 full weeks of carnival if you make your plans right. But what I think is really interesting is that UNESCO recognized the Basel Fasnacht Carnival as a World Heritage event. So if people are really into traveling and they want to see a lot of these cultural festivities, the Basel Fasnacht now is recognized by UNESCO as one of these really coveted events and carnivals to come check out. And so I think it was interesting you brought up that there's 5,000 drummers. It's very family oriented. And honestly, it's 3 days of these fifing and drumming and coming through the carnival scene throughout Basel Fasnacht, going up and down the Rhine. I mean, just gorgeous. And to even talk about your background and bringing up, how this crazy story of the Top Secret Drum Corps came up. The original folks from Top Secret were a part of this Basel Fasnacht scene, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there was a group of young drummers that came together and formed the original version of the drum group Top Secret. And when they went to Nova Scotia and Halifax for the first time in, I think it was 2001 or something, they were discovered then by Mel Jamieson. I think you had on here before. And from there, it became the Top Secret Drum Corps, and they went to Edinburgh, and then the whole show started. So, yeah, the origins are all in Fasnacht for us drummers everywhere. Yeah,
that's amazing. And Stu, I know you've had some elbow rubbing with the Top Secret Drum Corps, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's no surprise. I'm a big fan of the corps, but not just the corps itself, the whole brand as well. Top Secret Drum Corps is a huge brand. As is the Basel Tattoo, which is, they both go together, they both come out of each other. And obviously, Florian, you work for the Basel Tattoo. So how did that come from the Top Secret? Was that your way in, and what was your role within that?
Yeah, exactly. So I was part of the Top Secret Drum School, and then I made the cut to the Drum Corps. And from there, obviously, you get to know all of these amazing people. And then after my high school, I went to the army, where I drummed as well in the army, and then I needed to I had time on my hands before my studies started, and I was like, it would be cool to work for the Basel too, because there's a whole company behind it, right? So, and then I spoke to Eric and I asked if I could do an internship, and we agreed on a I think it was a half a year, an internship in 2015. And that's when I started. I had a little job working for the production team. And now I go back every year during the tattoo, doing basically the same thing for as kind of assistance for the production team. And now I'm even doing it as my army service. It all just added up, and it's all connected to each other. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, obviously for the drumming is a huge part of my life, and like you said, now it's all connected to each other. So it opens so many doors for me as well.
Yeah. And I mean, I'd love to even just bring the listeners in on this idea of the tattoo. And a lot of people are asking, of course, in the States, what is a tattoo? Is it ink on your arm? Is it a sleeve? And we've talked about it quite a bit, but I almost feel like you need to keep that conversation up, because I think the messaging sometimes gets lost, where in Europe, the idea of the tattoo traditionally was that final call of the evening. It went back to, a drummer going around town, telling the tavern keepers to turn off the taps, tap toe, close the taps, send everybody back to bed before reveille. And in the US, I think we kind of consider taps, meaning the bugle call taps at a funeral, something similar along those lines. So I love the idea that we can have a conversation now with 3 different folks from 3 different countries, all have military service. All 3 of us are veterans. All 3 of us are drummers, and we've all been a part of this international tattoo movement, or this tattoo scene, starting in Holland, but then really kind of exploding in Edinburgh, Scotland, where I think everyone knows now synonymously the name tattoo with the Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo. And Top Secret has been, actually, I hate to say this, but the 2 of you have more experience with this than I do with His Majesty's Royal Marines and the Top Secret Drum Corps than I do with the Old Guard, performing at the Edinburgh Tattoo. So, I mean, honestly, Stu and Florian, what are some incredible memories that you can bring back and share from your time performing at the Edinburgh Tattoo?
I think for me, and I didn't really see it straight away. My first performance was in 2008, and you treat it like any other gig. You go on, you're waiting for the doors to open, the crowd are warming up, and that's the bit you're waiting for them doors to open, the smoke to go through. But it's not until you actually get up to the skyboxes and watch it that you realise the backdrop. That is the big thing about it. The backdrop to it is amazing. It is the best backdrop in the world. And the other good thing is the audience is not just from Scotland or England. They're all over the world. The narrator used to come on and say, right, is anybody from China, anybody from Australia? And while you're waiting to go on, you can hear where all these people are from. He's building this audience up. So by the time the show starts, the audience are all set, ready to go. It's amazing. But the backdrop is definitely, without doubt, the best backdrop.
Yeah, I
think Florian,
totally agree.
Maybe you have an argument there.
Yeah, I have to agree with that, but it's always good. They always warmed up the crowd for us, so that's nice as well. But I played in 15 and 2018 in Edinburgh, and for us, it's not just another gig. I guess that's a little bit the difference, because for us it's a hobby, it's not our job, and taking off 4 weeks of our personal with personal vacation days from our jobs. You make the best out of it, obviously, and I had the best time of my life, and the 2 times I was there. For us, it's actually last year is the first time that I watched the tattoo as a spectator for the first time. So I went with a couple of friends and we just watched the tattoo, and that's also where you realize, wow, yeah, it is absolutely amazing with the backdrop. For us, for me, it's kind of the total experience, just the 4 weeks and being together with these almost kind of brothers, 25, 30 guys. And that's kind of what makes it so special. I couldn't pick out one single event, but if it would be something, it would be walking over that drawbridge into the arena, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, honestly, it's funny because Florian, you and I have both experienced being in the Top Secret Drum Corps, maybe more than one generation apart, since I'm the old man here. But I think it's funny to think about is almost coming in and being a guest of, the Edinburgh Tattoo, the hospitality piece, the camaraderie piece. And as a performer, you're meeting these people from all around the world who are either representing their nation or their nation's military or their police force or something like that. And so when you look at the cast that's on ground at each of these tattoos, almost everybody there is doing something of service with their day job or their normal life, and then they're at this one, massive event all together. And so that's something that you brought up just a minute ago, but that idea of being, in the army at one point, because I know Switzerland has mandatory service where you do your year or longer, but then, as a veteran coming back, you have to take off work to actually go and perform there. So, I mean, what has to happen? Like, what does rehearsal look like? What does the commitment look like from preparing for a performance at the Edinburgh Tattoo?
The commitment of the guys at Top Secret is for me is one of a kind, because you commit to that. Top Secret is your number one priority in your life. It doesn't matter what else is happening, because if you have 25 guys and every one of those is missing one rehearsal, you have 25 rehearsals that are not complete, right? And it has a huge effect. So if you have a Top Secret rehearsal or a performance, it doesn't matter if your grandma's birthday is on that day, you better show up. And you know that everybody that is part of Top Secret is committing to that. And I think that's also what makes it possible to have a non-professional group like that. They usually rehearse once a week, which is crazy to think that you can do that, but once a week, and you have a lot of training at home by yourself, but together once a week. And obviously leading up to a tattoo, you have rehearsal weekends, you have multiple rehearsals a week, etc. But I think really the commitment of every single member is what makes it possible to create a show like that.
So when you obviously you're going to the tattoo in advance. So when would the group normally start practicing? And obviously you've got day jobs to do. People have got studies. How do you balance it and get everything all into place?
The core knows about or starts preparations about a year in advance. With Edinburgh, we have this rhythm of like 3 years. 03, 06, 09, etc. And you kind of know when it's going to happen again. But what they also do is having new uniforms, new instruments, and all of that. So that just needs preparation and planning. When it comes to the private organization of your own holidays and etc. If you're still in work, I mean, I think a lot of the guys are students, so they can balance it. It works very well. If you're working, you have to have a very, very nice boss and a very nice company to work for. In Basel, the name Top Secret is something that you can, work with kind of, and also get the support from your managers to maybe, take some unpaid leave or whatever. But I think, and also, you would get a nice letters. I remember being in high school and going to South Africa for a week. And I had to take off school. I had to be, excused from school. I had this nice letter from Eric Juliar where he said, we're representing Switzerland, blah, blah, blah. And it was pretty cool. You go to South Africa and then a day later you're back in school and sitting next to your buddies again, which is kind of surreal.
Amazing. So obviously you said the group changes every 3 years, as in new performance material, new uniforms, new drums. Do you ever find that there's a lot of pressure on to do better than what you did the last time, or having to up your show a bit, or whatever, pyrotechnics you've got? Is there pressure there?
I think the pressure is huge, and it's very, very difficult to reinvent the wheel, as we say. You obviously always want to be doing something different, something new, something the world hasn't seen, but it's almost impossible, to be honest. And that's something the Top Secret Drum Corps really feels. I think that especially in Basel, the crowd is very judgmental. It's the home turf, and everybody knows the Top Secret Drum Corps. Pressure is huge, but I think what we need to, I think they also need to, we don't need to have something out of the world every year, or every time they reinvent some. It's built up the same, the show kind of, for years now, which I think I like it, but there's still something new. So yeah, the pressure is high, but it's also very, very difficult.
Yeah. I love that you bring up this idea of the home turf, because now we have a connection here with the idea of the Basel Tattoo really coming from this brainchild of Eric Juilliard and Sir Melville Jameson. And, what could the experience of Top Secret bring to the city of Basel if it were to be a full out show and, have a parade downtown and 100,000 people at the parade. And then, I don't know, between 6,000 and 8,000 people or so each night for a show. And so you now have seen almost firsthand, going through the Top Secret drum school to performing at the Edinburgh Tattoo to performing at the Basel Tattoo. So in Basel, I think there maybe was not a big tradition of the tattoo, but Top Secret helped kind of create that. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's very accurate. I think that you said it right, the brainchild of Eric. I think it started with a small kind of show, but he definitely got the idea when he was with Top Secret at the tattoo in Edinburgh. And but now it's interesting to see how fast it went to the top in Basel. Within I think 2 or 3 years, they were the second biggest tattoo in Europe. After the Edinburgh Tattoo, which I think is unbelievable, and now it's part of the city's culture, and it belongs to Basel, kind of. And so that steep climb was very, very interesting to see.
Yeah, and what I love about that is it's the idea of celebrating culture from around the world, regardless of where you're from. The Edinburgh Tattoo and now the Basel Tattoo is synonymous with celebrating of world culture, and I think that's something we need today more than ever before.
Yeah, I agree. And, we've all performed at tattoos, and I think the best part of it is speaking to people who, we've said this before, Mark, people you wouldn't normally speak to or not met before, and then it's raising them connections that you then push further forward and the rest of your careers. But, I know when I was in the Royal Marines, when the idea floating around was we're going to perform at the Basel Tattoo, nobody really knew what it was at the time, but everybody wanted to go because it was a foreign trip. Now, when we came back after 2010, the next time it got floated around, there was a lot of volunteers. All the stories had come back from, the performance, the street parades, the Casbah. Everybody just wanted to go. And, I was lucky enough to do 2 summer tattoos and the Christmas tattoo, which was completely different, but in its own right, very good as well, very well organized. And it just put everybody in the right mood just before Christmas. So it's being able to get the reactions and the emotions out of the audience, but also celebrating cultures from all around the world.
Yeah, so question here, I have to ask this because I feel like, Florian, you and I have had many conversations, and I think our first one actually was at the Avanche Tattoo, and maybe 2015, 2016, and maybe you were in the military at this point, or maybe it was a little later, but I remember hearing your accent, and I said, you don't have a typical Swiss accent. There's some American kind of thrown in there, and I have to bring this up because at the time of this recording, we are just a little bit past the Super Bowl, and for some reason, you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan. Why is that?
Yeah, actually, 10 years ago, I spent a year in high school in Kansas and became a Kansas City fan. I fell in love with football and became a Kansas City fan when they still sucked. So now I get to enjoy Super Bowls and Patrick Mahomes and not be part of the bandwagon culture. But I have to mention that every time someone asks me, well, who do you support? And I say, well, Kansas City Chiefs. And they're like, oh, you're one of those. I'm like, no, 10 years ago. So that's very important. But yeah, I spent a year in the US, and that's been a great experience.
And that's awesome because you and I have had many conversations. You've come and visited the Old Guard as a drummer and coming right off a Top Secret tour and, got to see what happens behind the scenes at the United States Presidential Honor Guard. I've been able to see behind the scenes, with Swiss culture and the Swiss military drummers and all of that. But I'm going to ask you a question about this. So I don't believe that people come into these conversations by chance or by accident. And I always feel that each of us that are there, we are able to see things that maybe other people don't see because we've had good mentorship or people who have looked out for us before. And so there has to be someone in your story that you would consider to be a great mentor. I would just love to hear, who would that be and what are some things that you learned early on from a mentor?
There's obviously a couple people. I have to mention my father, even though he's a five player, but he, when I was, if you start Basel drumming, there's a part where you really have to dig in and learn all these rudiments, etc., until you can play the first marches, and you feel like it goes forever, and you really have to rehearse. And he started learning how to drum with me. So he always sucked, but he motivated me to rehearse because I wanted to be better than him. And after maybe like 2 years, he had to stop because I was obviously he's still a piccolo player, but he kept me going, and I was so close to quit. I was like, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? And as a little kid, you don't have the patience that you need to endure and to get these rudiments in and all that stuff. So for him to do that, and it was never I have to keep drumming because of him, not at all. But he kind of used that mentorship to keep me motivated, and I think that's something that I'm very, very grateful for. Obviously, later I had a great mentor in my clique that I looked up to. He was a top secret drummer. His name is Sasha. He was a top secret drummer, and as a little kid, he was my absolute hero. And I kind of tried to follow his footsteps as much as I can with top secret, the army, and all of that stuff. So and just all along, Francie, who you all know as well, he was a teacher of mine for a long time, which also she gave me a lot of insights drumming wise, and also kind of personality, like just kind of everyday decisions whatsoever. But if I would have to choose one person, it's definitely my father, with not even being a drummer. So that's pretty cool.
I love it.
Yeah, I think we found, Mark, doing these interviews that it tends to be the father figure in the lives who've had quite a big impact on their individual lives. Starting off and then onto a different mentor, because it was the same with me, and obviously it was the same with you, and so it just seems to be a connection, especially with drummers. So. Just moving on, Florian. What's on the horizon for you? Have you got any plans?
Drumming wise, or I just joined I just joined the Grey Coat. I just joined the Grey Coat, which is American.
Great move.
Yeah, exactly. So, American style drumming is also very popular in Basel, and it just gives me something next to the carnival drumming, the Basel drumming, because obviously, to be honest, I'm not in Basel drumming, or not just in Basel drumming, because it's very challenging, or it's something that keeps me going. It's more the friendship. It's the family. It's my lifelong friends that I have there. But stuff like now the American style drumming is a new challenge, because obviously I can't do top secret anymore. I'm too old for that, and also with the army I'm almost done. So it's nice to have a new challenge. Working wise, actually, very happy with my job and trying to move to the US. So in the future, I hope for a few years I'll be able to. That's a big dream of mine, to work in the US for a couple of years. And behind the scenes in my company, we're working on that. Nope, not sure when it's going to happen, but I'm very confident that it will happen someday. So that's going to be a big thing in the future, in the next years.
That'll be fantastic. So obviously, just quickly before we move on, you're talking about you can't drum in top secret anymore. Is it hard having to age out of something that you're involved in with such a tight group of people? You travel the world, you share bedrooms with, you fly together. Is it hard when you've eventually got to leave that group?
Age out is kind of the DCI thing, where you're literally too old. In top secret, there's no age limit. So don't get me wrong. I'm not too old because of any rules. I'm just too old because I can physically not do it anymore. It takes a toll on you. It takes a toll on you. It's a lot of investment of time and everything. And at a point, you're just done with it, and it's totally fine. I actually quit twice, so that's also funny. There are a lot of guys, they quit and then they go back for a year or something. But yeah, it's definitely hard, because, like you said, you're such a tight band, a kind of band of brothers style, and you experience so many cool things together. But the best part about it is that you see these guys not all the time, but still a lot through Fasnacht. So especially leading up to Fasnacht with all these events, I think there's no event where there is not one or more top secret guys somehow involved, or past top secret guys. And you still have these connections and stories to share that you'll never forget. And that's what makes it so great.
Yeah. And I think that's what tattoos do. You know, you like I said before, you meet all these different people, but you know, when you meet up with them again further down the line, you talk about what you did in the past. You remember when we were at the Basel Tattoo 2013 or Australia, and it's great, you know, just have a chat about the old times over a beer, and you when you meet up again, it's like no time has passed at all. You just carry on where you left off, and then you go your separate ways again, and you just carry on with life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
friendship,
I love this discussion
for life.
too.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, the friendships for life piece is so huge. And quite honestly, this is where we are so excited for the future of the Washington Tattoo, because we're already putting in permits, 2024, Lincoln Memorial. We're looking to build this thing up, you know, to the 250th anniversary of 2026. So we've got show programming already set for 2024 in May. 2025, same thing. And we've already been in discussions about bringing Top Secret over for a show here in Washington. So Florian, I know you and I have chatted about strategy and relationships and keeping those connections warm. And Stu, of course, if we have to do a reunion where we can do an old guard Royal Marines Top Secret show in Washington, I think there'd be quite a few people super excited about that.
Yeah, I think so.
Definitely.
So now, Florian, I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I just want, but it's also funny, you know, that if there's a top secret drum corps traveling over there, that those are guys that maybe never met anyone in the Royal Marines, but still so excited to do that. And you have all these new people that create new stories, which I think is also cool. And we're the old guys sitting on the sidelines and enjoying it most. So that's very nice.
Yeah, and I suppose for our guys, you know, because of COVID, nobody's you know, gone anywhere. So even our guys are going to be the newer guys now, as opposed to the veterans, for want of a better word. So the old guard. Yeah. So it's, you know, when everybody meets again together, they're going to be starting from scratch, relationships and getting to know each other. But that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I think bringing in this idea of military, giving them an ecosystem, giving them a community of music, because another piece of this too is with the Top Secret Drum School, is this idea of that you don't have to come in knowing everything. You can come in, take some lessons, and even now the Washington Tattoo has these workshops that we're bringing in children of veterans, children of first responders coming in and learning how to play music. And honestly, that's for us such a powerful give back. And then to bring them in as part of the ecosystem where they can come see a show, then all of a sudden make friends from around the world, where back in the day you had a pen pal and you would maybe write your letter that took 6 months to get to that person. Now they find each other on Instagram, they find each other on Twitter or Facebook, and now they can literally exchange music and conversations with international friends that they would never have had that connection with if it were not for an international tattoo. So, gentlemen, I just want to say thank you so much for the time today. Florian, it's been an honor to chat with you, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me. A huge honor to be invited to this, and it was great chatting to you guys.
Awesome. Stu, thank you, my friend, once again for the great conversation. Always loved chatting with you.
Well, hopefully it won't be too long. I'm coming across soon so we can have a proper chat and maybe a cuppa or even a beer.
Yeah, sounds great. So just if anyone's interested in finding out more information about the Top Secret Drum Corps or the Basel Tattoo, you can look up www.thetopsecretdrumcorps.com or www.thebaseltattoo.ch. If you're interested in any of those, please check them out. You can always look up the Washington Tattoo at www.thewashingtontattoo.com. There you can see our events, our workshops, and we're actually really excited about this. We're working on a new program with Wreaths Across America Radio. So we're super excited about that partnership, but we're pushing a military musicians honoring campaign where we will be putting wreaths on the grave sites of military musicians across the entire United States and hopefully across into Europe in the next year or so. So please check out the website. We're looking to really get that up and running, and we're super excited that you're with us on this journey. So Stu, Florian, have a great day. Thank you, gentlemen, so much.
Take care.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Hey everyone, this is Mark Riley again. We want to share a great opportunity with you to get your business name out to our listeners. We are looking for individual episode and yearly sponsors for the Washington Tattoo podcast. So if you love music, history, and want to support military veterans, please take this step with us and consider being a sponsor. For information on that, please email marketing@thewashingtontattoo.com.